welcome to the Tea with ENC. I am your host, Malcolm Pollock. Thank you for tuning in today. This episode marks our third installment, and today I'm very pleased to be joined by two very special guests. From our Athletic Services Department, I have today with me Robbie Lindeman and Danielle Hogle. First and foremost, I can't thank you all enough for joining me today. I know I kind of put both of you on the spot by just randomly showing up at your office a few days ago asking you to join me on the podcast, and I do thank you both for gladly accepting the invite. Before we get into today's episode, if you're not yet subscribed, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and stay tuned with ENC as we navigate this audio adventure. As I mentioned in the intro, Danielle and Robbie are both a part of our Athletic Services Department. With winter championships just finishing up, we have officially transitioned fully to spring sports. With baseball, softball, and other spring sports underway, we felt it would be great to have them on to discuss hot topics, rule changes, and things we see impacting schools, coaches, and athletes throughout the state. Before we get into the depths of athletic services, could each of you take some time to tell the viewers a little bit more about yourselves? What is your official title and role with athletic service, sports you cover, responsibilities, and also how long you've been with the association?
Yeah, so thanks for having us, Malcolm. I'm Danielle Hogle. I'm an administrator of athletics. I oversee swimming and diving, competitive cheerleading, beach volleyball, and softball. I've been with the association since 2016, and I've loved every second of it.
Yes, thanks again, Malcolm. We appreciate you having us. I've been with the FHSAA since 2014, and I'm the coordinator of athletics. I am the administrator of football and the administrator of baseball, and also work with our corrective action team.
Awesome. Well, so for me, I'm still relatively new with the association. I'm still within my first year. I spent the majority of my time, obviously coaching and teaching at the high school level. And so around this time, funny enough, last year around this time, I was on this association's website, looking for vacant basketball coaching positions and came across the position that I'm currently in with ENC. But what about you guys? What are your stories? How did you end up here with the association? What kind of inspired or led to you to pursuing this career?
Yeah, Malcolm. So I previously worked as a high school dean and a high school athletic director, as well as a head baseball coach. Education-based athletics is very important to my family and I. My wife and I have kids back home that are currently in high school athletics, participating in basketball, football, baseball, weightlifting, and flag football. So with that being with the FHSAA here, now going on 11 years, high school athletics is near and dear to our heart, and that's something that we've absolutely enjoyed. And being part of the FHSAA and this family has been an important decision and a great decision for my family and I.
Awesome. Danielle, what's your story?
Yeah, so I attended school here in Gainesville. I went to the University of Florida from 2010 to 2014. And in my senior year, I got an internship here at the FHSAA. I was just blown away that a career in sports was actually real and attainable. I love that I can come to work every day knowing we're making a lasting impression in these student athletes' lives. And I love the freedom and creativity that comes with organizing our state championship events.
It's kind of cool to hear, all of us have sort of different stories and different things that brought us here to be a part of the association. I know for me personally, one of the common misconceptions that I had before joining the staff, I wasn't previously aware of just how small the staff was. I can't say that I was fully aware of all the responsibilities of each department. Athletic services oversees quite a bit. And you often, have to move really quickly. With ENC, if we get an allegation, we have about 5 to 10 business days. We meet as a team. We sort of have to take our time to, build a case if you have it. You guys, on the other hand, have to move very quickly. When you're dealing with ejections and unsportsmanlike rulings and different things that impact the actual game itself, you have to move really quickly. Danielle, can you give the listeners a description of the CAT team? What are the responsibilities of the group? How often do you all meet?
Yeah, so our corrective actions team is made up of each of our sport administrators here in the office. We're responsible for meeting daily and reviewing the ejection reports that are sent in by our officials and athletic directors from the previous day's matches and games. Our job is to review the reports from both parties, take into account any corrective actions that a school is already implementing before assigning the corrective action from our office. These corrective actions can come in the form of certain amounts of games the individual needs to sit out, sportsmanship courses they need to complete, and monetary penalties, just to name a few.
Robbie, anything you would like to add to the responsibilities of the CAT team or any information you think would be relevant?
Yeah, Danielle hit on a lot of those, but something else that that's out there for our schools, if there is an ejection, schools will receive an email from me that next morning basically asking for their information. We asked the school to provide detailed information on an AT6. Do they have video? Is there a letter from the administrator on duty? Is there information from the coach? What did those individuals witness? Because then we like to piece it together when the corrective action team meets the next day to make sure that we're giving the right decision when it comes to corrective action for that student athlete or that coach.
So it's safe to say that there's a group of people, individuals that meet to discuss these topics. So there's quite a bit of perspectives in those rooms when these decisions are being rendered. It's not just one person making these decisions. You guys you're acting as a group. From a statistically speaking, would you say there has been an influx or reduction in the types of issues the CAT team has had to deal with throughout the year, when it comes to ejections, unsportsmanlike penalties, and et cetera?
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that up because we have seen an influx of unsporting behavior throughout our state. It's actually been a national issue that we've actually had conversations with our other states. But 2023-24 school year, to date, there were 1,288 ejection or unsporting behaviors. At this time, for 2024-25, we're at 1,856. So you hear that large increase. I will touch on a couple important factors for that. Looking at soccer had a rule change on how they administer cards, a yellow card, a red card, or what we call a blue card. And we've never tracked a blue card before in our office. And a blue card is almost like two technicals in a basketball game, which would result in an ejection, and then that official would submit that information to our office. So looking at that, we had about 303 of the to-date ejections are from boys soccer, and then about 53 blue cards for girls soccer as well. So that increase for that number, but overall ejections are trending in the wrong direction for the 2024-25 school year. And we know, or our baseball coaches know, because I'm emailing them once a week updates, and we want to continue to work in a sporting way to make sure that number is going down.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, there's been some incremental rule changes in the way that you evaluate things that have somewhat caused the spike, but in general, there's an increase, but some of that, again, is related to the blue card or the way that you guys are, kind of evaluating these things.
That is correct. We just wanted to make sure we were tracking the data so our soccer advisory committee could review that and make sure that those cards are actually being properly administered. But across the board, we can say that, in each sport, there has been an increase in ejections, and we want our coaches and our athletes and our schools to continue to make sure that we're following sportsmanship to its highest regard.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Danielle, moving on to you. Now that the season is underway in both beach volleyball, softball, two of the sports that you cover, what are some of the hot topics that you see impacting teams, member schools, and other coaches across the state?
Yeah, so I know it sounds kind of like our theme today, and almost is one of the easiest things for us to regulate, but sportsmanship has really been the biggest issue that we've seen both in beach volleyball and in softball this season. Beach volleyball is an athlete-regulated sport, which means there are no officials at these matches most of the time. Schools do have the ability to hire officials, but it's not super common just yet. And what really makes beach volleyball a great sport is that it is based on sportsmanship and fair play. It really empowers the girls to handle conflicts and develop their own self-advocacy skills that benefit them long past their volleyball careers. We do rely on these coaches to help guide the student athletes as they learn to navigate throughout the season. And unfortunately, most of the issues that we've encountered so far are those coaches not having that neutral stance and keeping that hands-off approach to let the athletes learn to navigate it. And not to sound like a broken record here, but softball, we've had the same issues. We're seeing a lot more coaches' ejections than student athletes. So far this season, we've had 8 ejections for softball, and a majority of them are coaches so far for their behavior, for arguing balls and strikes or getting a little bit too heated. So we appreciate the passion, but also we need to lead by example with our student athletes. Last year, we only had 18 ejections for the sport of softball, and so far in the first 3 weeks of this season, we are up to 8. So we are definitely trending upwards this year.
Now, Robbie, as the coordinator of athletics and the administrator of baseball, what are some of the hot topics that you are seeing impact teams, sort of from a different perspective, but member schools, coaches, and all across the state? Any new rule changes the member schools should be aware of, speaking to pitch count and et cetera.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on Danielle and just discuss our baseball ejections for the 2025 season. As I stated earlier, the coaches are receiving these emails weekly, but we're up to 92 baseball ejections on the year, 28 of those being coaches. How does that compare to the 2024 season? 2024, we had 235 total baseball ejections. So looking at that trend, we want to make sure that we're moving in a different direction when it comes to sporting behavior. Hot topic in baseball each year is the pitch count policy, and would like to touch on that briefly. The pitch count policy can be found in your baseball manual on our FHSAA.com website, and if you go to the sport of baseball, you can pull down and you can see the rules and pull our baseball manual down. And make sure you download that. And on page 3, you can find our pitch count regulations for the FHSAA. And something that's important is the daily max compared to the regular required rest for our pitchers. A lot of misconception is when a pitcher has thrown a 31st pitch or a 47th pitch and they are still pitching to a certain batter, is reverting back to is that 45 threshold where I can go. That is not how the chart reads. The only time you can finish a batter is when you're at those max numbers. So if we're looking at 95 and I'm still throwing to a batter and my pitcher has hit that 96, 97 in the middle of that count, that is when you would revert back to that daily max of 4 days rest. If a student athlete throws their 31st pitch in the middle of an at-bat, they are now up to a 1 day's rest in that 15 to 18-year-old threshold. Also, I would like to bring attention to the pitch count verification form. If there's any question for that can be found on page 5 of our baseball manual. And that is the making sure we're following our pitch counts and signing off by both head coaches before you leave the facility of where that game is being held. That pitch count verification form allows you to provide, if there is ever any question of your game changer account, to, hey, I've got this. I've got John Smith. I've got him in jersey number 12, age 16, and he's thrown 55 pitches. The opposing coach has signed off. You share that with our office, and that also gives us the data that we're looking for, that there was or was not a pitch count of violation. And that has saved many schools when being able to provide that information if there's ever been a pitch count of violation in question.
So the common theme that I'm hearing, as we navigate through this conversation has been, unsportsmanlike ejections, especially, increasing with the coaches. It's safe to say that we're in a new day as far as, society goes. And so you've stated, Robbie and Danielle, both that, nationwide, these things have increased throughout high school sports. If you had a call to action, though, if you had, best advice or practices you would give to, any coaches or ADs that may be listening as we close out today's episode, Danielle, what would you want to leave those coaches and ADs with?
So, not to sound like a broken record, but sportsmanship and communication. Our staff is here to help educate and hopefully prevent any issues you and your school may have on the front end. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us at any time for any sort of rule or policy clarification. That's what we're here for. Sportsmanship is one of the most important things we can teach our student athletes. The lessons they're learning on the field go so much farther than the rules of the game. So please, as adults, remember to implement that into your program.
And Robbie, any again, best advice, best practices that you would give to, any coaches or ADs that may be listening today?
My first thing is going to be directed more towards the baseball coaches, especially when it comes to like the pitch count. I want coaches to make sure they understand that forfeits are no longer part of the pitch count violation. So with that said, making sure we're communicating with our opponents if there ever is a question with the pitch count during that end game. If you need to ask questions, that is the one thing that I want to touch on, is coaches need to ask questions. Reach out to us. Feel free to give us a call. I like to leave the office with no email or phone call returned or unanswered. That is one thing that we strive here in the office. We have a great group of individuals working here at the FHSAA, and we're here for you. Feel free to pick up that phone, give us a call, and answer any questions. Also want to thank you, Malcolm, for having Danielle and I from our athletic services team. Like I said earlier, we have a We have a great family here at the FHSAA. It's a small group of us. People don't realize the small numbers we have here in Gainesville, but we are a great family. And as you see with this podcast, we are a great group of individuals that work together. We want to do what's best for our member schools.
Absolutely. And I do greatly appreciate you, Danielle and Robbie, for, joining me today. I just want to thank you all again for, joining me on today's episode. I thoroughly enjoy sitting down with you all, getting an inside perspective of the world of athletic services. I have a deep admiration for your team and all that you guys do. It is not an easy task, to carry the load of the, athletic administrators and athletic services in general. And so you guys carry that load day in and day out with grace. And so I just want to thank you all for, again, joining me. Thank you to the listeners for tuning in to another episode of The Tea with ENC. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Stay tuned for our next 2 Minute Tuesday and full episodes as we continue. Keep sitting.